Welcome everybody to the Royal Victoria Regional Health Centre in Barrie, our second program looking at this growing city in central Ontario. Barrie, like so many other Ontario cities, has had its share of economic struggles through the years. 4 years ago, the city's unemployment rate was one of the highest among Canadian cities. Today, it is one of the lowest. Tonight, we're going to hear what Barrie did to turn things around, what it still needs to do, and what things look like on the horizon. Now, if you weren't able to join us here at the hospital this afternoon, you can still be part of this broadcast. We are live streaming on our homepage. That's theagenda.tvo.org. You can also share your thoughts on Barrie and Barrie's economic transformation on Twitter. Use the hashtag TVOOnTheRoad. All one word, TVOOnTheRoad. That's the hashtag. Joining us now to help set up the discussion to come, Marilyn Westmoyne. She is the president and CEO of Georgian College. Tom McBride, owner of McBride Financial Services, Inc. He's also vice chair of the board at Georgian. Debbie DeCare, president of the Barrie Chamber of Commerce. And Rod Jackson, the former MPP for Barrie, now owner of the consulting firm Inside Politics International. And how about a nice Barrie welcome for all of our guests on the program today. Hi gang, great to be here again for our second program. We've been doing these on-the-road programs. I think this is city number 18 for us, and I think this is the first time we've ever come to a location and done two programs here. There's so much going on here that we wanted to do two programs. And to set up the discussion to come, we're going to put a few graphics up. So Sheldon, if you would, let's go with these. The unemployment rate in Canada, 6.6%. The province of Ontario's average 7.0%. How's Barrie doing? 4.9%, well ahead of the average. How about the top employers in this area? You're going to see a theme here. The Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board comes in first. The Royal Victoria Regional Health Centre, where we're doing our broadcast today, comes in second. Georgian College is third. The YMCA of Simcoe Muskoka is in fourth. And the City of Barrie is fifth. That's a lot of public sector jobs there. How about industries of employment? If you look at the construction trade, in Barrie compared to the rest of the province, it's a little more here. If you look at retail in Barrie compared to the rest of the province, it's a little more. If you look at professional, scientific, and technical fields, however, it's a little bit less. If you look at healthcare and social services, however, it's a little bit more. Okay, let's get into this. You've all lived in Barrie for a number of years, all of you different experiences here, and I want to find out how Barrie's business climate has changed over the course of your careers. Marilyn, why don't you get us started?
Well, I'm probably the newest comer to the team, just 2.5 years in the community. And I just want to begin by what drew me to this community is all the wonderful resources that actually are here. Great, beautiful city, resources all over. From the perspective of arts culture and social culture, you couldn't find a better place. And because before I came, I did a little bit of research, and I've started to see the work employment on the rise. And that's something that Barrie should be very, very proud of, Steve. There's no doubt about it. It's a great place to live, and as a newcomer, my husband and I are just delighted to be in the city, and we hope others will come and follow. Rod,
you're from here?
Yes.
Lived your whole life here?
Yeah, most of it. I was actually born in Kitchener, but my family's been here for 4 generations, if that makes any sense. My father actually left and came back, to Barrie. So my family's in its 4th generation in Barrie, and since I was a little small boy, I've seen Barrie grow from a city of 30-odd thousand to 140,000 people, and our economy has completely transformed in that period of time.
Well, let's pick up on that. You've seen it. Obviously, Molson's was in business here once upon a time, along with another of other manufacturers. It's different today. How's it different?
Yeah, it's different because we were forced to make a decision a long time ago. Well, a decision was made for us between General Tire and Molson's and some other big manufacturers, old economy manufacturers leaving. Barrie's kind of forced into a position where we had to rethink about what our economy needed to be. And the transformation hasn't been by accident. When I was on city council, we talked a lot about what does Barrie want to be. And we've seen this transformation with an investment in infrastructure, whether it's redundant hydro and redundant water supplies to house our data tech centers that are coming to Barrie now. We see with TD and Bank of Montreal, BMO, and IBM. These are businesses that have found their way to Barrie because of the investment and the foresight that we've had over the past 10, 15 years.
Debbie, when did your relationship with Barrie start?
Oh, many years ago. I was raised in Barrie, moved here when I was 3, from the big metropolis of Collingwood. So Barrie was always the destination to be. And when you take a look at Barrie, back in the day it was so small, the 400 really wasn't the 400 as you see it today. McDonald's was outside of Barrie, and the hospital was downtown. So seeing the transformation and how it's evolved and grown and expanded on a geography and a footprint size, but also in how it's just created and become much more diverse. It's much more a community of wholeness now, as opposed to just kind of a spot to be.
Tom, how about you? When did you first start with Barrie?
I came here in '77, and there were 32,500 people here. The waterfront was basically a small little park called Centennial Beach. That's one of the examples of what the community has done since then, is invested millions of dollars in creating something that's really worth visiting and is quite attractive to everybody in this community.
Just before I ask you the follow-up question, we should remind everybody, we're in a working hospital right now, so people will see, our viewers will see people in the background walking by. These are patients, obviously, and their families coming and going, and we're doing a television show in the middle of the lobby of the hospital, so that's why. You're in the financial services business, so if this community is richer, you'd know. How's it
Yes.
doing?
It's doing very well. To expand on what I started off with in terms of the waterfront, I mean, since then, we went on to build an art gallery, which has made a big difference to the perception of the artistic community. We also got involved in things like the expansion here, so now this is a central hub for medical services in the county, whereas it was once a hospital that basically serviced Barrie. You now have an entire infrastructure built around servicing this area. You've also got the college and all the things it's done to add the University Partnership Center. And you've also got theater. So when I moved here, there was virtually none. Now there are 2 theater companies, and a theater has been built. So these are all of the things that have changed the quality of life here and made it much more attractive as a place to go to.
Mary Lynn, let me get you to follow up on how the changing economy, the growing economy in some respects, has had an impact on what you've tried to do at the college. We've already pointed out Georgian is the 3rd highest employer in the area. How has the growth of the whole area affected what you do at Georgian?
Well, since the turn of the century, we've doubled in size. So as the city has grown and Simcoe County has grown, the college has grown. We added the University Partnership Center in 2002, and we have...
What's that?
That's a partnership center where we've brought universities in to join us in providing degrees to students. And so we have York, Laurentian, UOIT, and Central Michigan, and ourselves providing degrees to 1,500 students on our campus. And on the college side, added 42 diplomas and 21 different apprenticeship opportunities for students. So it's been amazing. This last year, we gave out 3,700 T4s to individuals throughout Simcoe, Owen Sound, and the Muskoka. So the growth of the college has really matched what's gone on in this beautiful community.
Let me ask the head of the Chamber of Commerce this one. People remember, anybody who grew up either in this area or even an hour away, you can remember driving up the 400 and seeing that Molson plant there.
Yep.
And then the next time it made the news because of, there was a grow-op there or something like that, right?
Innovation.
Innovation, right.
Entrepreneurship.
That's an interesting idea. Okay.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
15 years ago, they shut it down. What did that do to what this community thought it was capable of doing economically at the time?
I think when you really take a look going back, 15 and 20 years ago, the city at that point wasn't just hanging its hat on Molson's is going to be the only industry and the only thing. It knew back then as well that growth was coming to Barrie. And, just the sheer force and the size of Toronto, when you take a look at that radius, you know that all those communities within an hour drive are going to grow. So, yes, definitely Molson's was a loss to the community, but taking it forward, there's been so much focus with things like Georgian College, the entrepreneurship. How can we support the individual companies that are starting out small but that have the prospect of going outside the Barrie borders, outside the Canadian borders, and how does the city and how does the chamber support those individuals in becoming that much bigger? And entrepreneurship has been a huge focus with Barrie for as long as I can remember. And when you say about 30,000, I'm remembering 26,000 as a population. And entrepreneurship was always something, and in through the schools. So yes, Molson left, but that didn't signify or didn't hang us on anything.
Rod, let me
a
follow up on that,
transition.
because it wasn't just Molson's, it was General Tire, there was Black & Decker. I mean, as you point out, old industrial Ontario was very much here, and then it wasn't. How much of a black eye did that feel like for the community when those places were closing down?
It felt like quite a bit of a black eye, I think, but it was. They also weren't surprises, right? I think everyone kind of knew that this was coming down the pike, and it forced, as Debbie mentioned, it forced people in Barrie to be entrepreneurial. So we've become an entrepreneurial hub. There's so many things happening in our downtown and at our college and with the chamber and all sorts of different organizations in Barrie to help grow entrepreneurs. So as a result, we have all these really good stories to tell too. So we have companies like Napoleon and South Medic and Moore Packaging that are all doing really well with
Tell us about
niche-
Napoleon, because that's really a big one.
Yeah, Napoleon, I think most people know Napoleon barbecues. They're made and I think distributed around most of the world, certainly North America and Europe. And they're right just down the road here. You can almost walk there from here. And they started out in a garage, right? And then have slowly grown to the point now where they employ hundreds and hundreds of people and have a worldwide niche for building one of the best barbecues on the planet. But everything else that comes with it, they're vertically integrated for most of the stuff that they build in there. That's really unique. And that's the kind of businesses that are building and growing in Barrie. And they're being nurtured. We gotta, pay more attention, I think, in Barrie too, to making sure that we take care of the businesses and the employers that are here, and helping them become the employers that have, 10 this year, that they have 10, 20, 100 next year, and the year after that. Help them grow, and instead of looking for that big fish. I mean, those days are kind of gone. Geographically, we can't compete with the 401 corridor. We're just that much too far away that we got to think of a different value proposition, and I think we're doing a really good job at that.
Tom, what is part of that value proposition? Because, he's right. Everybody's running around offering tax breaks to get the next auto manufacturing plant or whatever, something that's going to employ 1,000 people to come to them. What's Barrie offering?
Well, can I just take you back for a moment to Rod's comment? And arguably, when those plants closed, and it's starting to look like ancient history, some of them, because we're into the early 90s on the General Tire story, and we're into the early 2000s on the Molson story. It became, necessity became the mother of invention for this community. So it had to dig deep, and it couldn't just assume a level of good fortune in terms of the economic situation. And the 400 wasn't going to deliver everything we needed. So the community had to dig deep and go, where was it going to go to from there? And I think council started paying more attention to creating the right environment to make this an attractive place to move to.
So what does that include?
Well, I think it includes the usual hard infrastructure issues around roads. And for example, we used to have a sewage treatment plant that when you have a big storm, it would discharge into the bay, creating a nasty story around the community whenever that happened. Big investment in all of that so that we don't have that kind of situation coming up very often anymore. Water treatment plants, roads, improving the on and off capacity on the 400. Arguably the 400 is our main street. People have talked before Barrie about the lake and the difficulty of planning a transportation system around it, but it's also the 400 because you can't run any street across the 400, the way you could in a typical grid system, which has made transportation a problem, but there's been big investments in that. And then you look at the issues that people like Richard Florida talk about, who talks about, how to create a culture and a place that people want to move to. Because the old paradigm was get the big employers to come, then you'll have people move to your community. Now what it's about is attract people that really want good quality lifestyle, good diversity, and have made huge strides in that direction, whether it be in the arts or a welcoming community to people that are immigrating to Canada. I mean, Georgian College alone has 1,000 foreign students. Then we've also got the YMCA working with all parts of the community to make this a welcoming place for new immigrants. Then you've got the services that are available have grown dramatically. I mean, it used to be all of us would get on the highway and go get things that we couldn't find here. We'd go to Toronto to get them. You hardly ever need to get on the highway to go get something anymore.
Let me ask Debbie about that highway, because as you point out, the 400 brings a lot of people to Barrie, and a lot of people can see Barrie as they pass on the 400. But it does make building an east-west, alignment of your city impossible. Is the 400 a bigger help or a bigger hindrance if you're trying to build a good city?
Well, let's see if we can have a plea for some money for infrastructure to come in to help with another bypass on the Mapleview. We can send that one out.
I think you just did. How much would that cost?
I am not sure. That would be more a question for Ann Hogarth there, but definitely it creates its challenges, and it does fragment Barrie to a certain point, only because you can save some time if you're traveling to Toronto, being on the south end. But I don't know, the 400, it's pretty nice when you can hop on the 400 at Mapleview and then get to Bayfield or to Duckworth in 5 and 10 minutes. And essentially you've spanned all of Barrie, and your commute from the south end to the north end is 10 minutes.
You know what, I got to push back a bit on that, because we just did a whole program yesterday on the fact that a lot of people are complaining that it's now taking 20, 25, and 30 minutes to do drives that used to take 5 and 10, right?
If you were to go internally, I'd go for that. But if you really want to, do a duck across the city, you hop onto the highway. The highway takes you right across. It does not take that long to go from Mapleview to Duckworth on the 400.
Okay, you four stay put for 1 second. We're going to do a little business over here. We want to remind everybody we're at the Royal Victoria Regional Health Centre in Barrie, Ontario this evening, the second of 2 programs that we're doing from this sort of capital of Central Ontario, if I can put it that way. We're live streaming this event right now on our website, theagenda.tvo.org. We're inviting your tweets as well using the hashtag TVO on the road, so please join in the conversation. Joining our discussion now is Sarah Peddle. Sarah is Executive Director of the David Busby Street Centre here in Barrie. And Sarah, first of all, welcome. Thanks for taking part in today. A little bit of background. Who's David Busby?
David Busby was the canon for Trinity Church back in the early 90s. So he was leading the Trinity Church back when Mandy Hilliard, who was a local nurse, was looking for somewhere to facilitate services for people that were struggling with homelessness.
And he basically took homeless people off the streets and helped them in the church basement, right? Gave them a place.
Absolutely, yes.
So you named the place after him.
Yes.
Now, you don't do it out of a church basement anymore, right? You've got a...
Yeah, just recently, actually, as of September of this year, we moved out of Trinity Church after 21 years, and we're now at 88 Mulcaster Street in Barrie.
Your own standalone facility.
Well, we're actually been very welcomed by one of our local lawyers' offices, Barriston Law Office. They've actually given us some space in their building.
Some people are going to say Barrie and homelessness. There's a homelessness problem in Barrie. You say what to them?
Unfortunately, yes. It's not as visible as it is in some of the larger cities. You will see some panhandling, you will see some people that are out on the sidewalks the odd time, but a lot of the time it's hidden homelessness. So people that are couch surfing, we provide a day service, so people come to us during the day to get supports. And then we have shelters in the evenings and out of the cold during the winter months to make sure that people are in out of the cold.
So you actually go into the downtown or into the neighborhoods, and if you see somebody who's freezing on the street at night, you'll bring them in?
Absolutely.
Give them a place to stay?
Yes.
Do you have any trouble doing that? Some people don't want to come in. They're suffering from mental health issues or something, and they want to be left alone.
There's definitely a small percentage of people that are not willing to come in due to mental health issues, but we definitely work creatively with our community partners to make sure that they're safe, make sure that we can try to get them in, and if they choose not to, then we make sure that we're always following up with our partners such as Barrie Police and ourselves. We have an outreach team, Salvation Army. We're all working together to make sure that everyone's safe out there.
How long you lived in Barrie?
I've been around the area for about 25 years.
25 years. 25 years ago, what was homelessness like in Barrie at that time?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I was quite young and a teenager, so I wasn't really thinking about it. But it's exciting to know that nowadays teenagers are thinking about it. We have students from all over the city coming and volunteering at the center and making meals and really getting educated about homelessness. So I feel kind of ashamed that I didn't know as much as some of the youth do now.
Well, you shouldn't, because you probably didn't know anything about it because you didn't see it.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't as big a factor back then as it is today.
Yeah.
Does that concern you?
Absolutely. We're seeing an increase in the need for affordable housing so that we can help a lot of the folks that are experiencing homelessness and poverty. We're seeing higher numbers of people being evicted because they can't afford to pay their rents. That's just not affordable to even live, have a three-member family in a one-bedroom apartment. So we definitely need to look at how we can build some affordable housing in the city so that we can meet the need of the folks that are struggling.
How do you get that done?
Work together. We are very much about solutions-based. We're very fortunate that we are in a city that's so generous. The City of Barrie, the County of Simcoe, all of our community partners are all coming together to really realize that we need to combat this with affordable housing. So the City of Barrie has a draft affordable housing strategy that we're working with, as well as the County of Simcoe. They have a 10-year affordable housing plan that was mandated from the Ontario government, and the federal government has actually mandated a housing first model for people that are struggling with chronic homelessness. So it's about working with all levels of government, but also the community. And fortunately, we live in a very generous community, so I don't doubt that we will be able to accomplish our goal.
So is affordable housing for low-income people who need it getting built in this community?
There is some initiatives that have happened. We also have lost some stock of affordable housing due to different circumstances. So we really need to make sure that it's always on the radar. It was top 3 in the priorities as surveyed by the City of Barrie for the citizens. So as long as we keep it in the forefront, we'll make sure that it is built. So there are, I believe, 2 projects that are working on right now, and we'll just continue to make sure that we're forging forward with that.
Okay. Sarah, thanks for that update. Appreciate it very much. We should also let you know that if you do go on our website, theagenda.tvo.org, our producer Jonathan Hallowell created an infographic with lots more information about the affordable housing situation in Barrie, so theagenda.tvo.org for more on that. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. Okay, let's continue now. I've got, Sheldon, we're going to play that clip now, right? This is a recent university graduate named Caitlin talking about the difficulties that she has had trying to get a job in her hometown of Barrie, Ontario. Let's roll that, please.
As a recent graduate, I'm hearing that there's all this industry coming to Barrie, but then at the same time, I don't really see it, and I'm still feeling the need to be looking south of me and pursuing jobs, being willing to commute, and some industries coming to Barrie, but the way it's being portrayed is more that all of these jobs are coming to Barrie, when in reality all you're seeing is the minimum wage jobs popping up, and there's new restaurants all over Barrie, and there's Bed Bath & Beyonds and new just kind of retail jobs.
Okay, those are some very real concerns from somebody who was probably emblematic of her generation, gone to get some post-secondary education. I have a happy ending to this story, actually, though. Since she did that interview, Caitlin actually did find a human resources job in Midland. So that's a good conclusion to that story. But they're not all happy endings, and obviously we want to find out what you folks can say to people like Caitlin or others who are finding that kind of difficulty. Rod, what's the situation like here if you're young, just out of school, and looking for work?
Yeah, it's tricky, no doubt about it. Our economy is diversified, and we've grown, and we've got different offerings in Barrie, but although our unemployment rate is doing well, what we see is, and I think anyone who's done any work with either the Busby Center or certainly at Christmas Cheer, for example, you're seeing a whole lot of working poor in Barrie. And that's the one thing that really struck me in the last couple of years when I was serving as MPP, was the number of people who were double income families that couldn't support themselves.
Working poor, so they'd be in what kinds of jobs?
They might be in retail, service jobs, working in I know one couple I got to know quite well, one working in a grocery store, the other with a cable company. Happy to have gainful employment, and but you know what? It's a challenge. If you want to grow your family, or you want to, live in a bigger home or anything like that, it's harder and harder to do that in Barrie, and you have to go somewhere else to find work. It is very difficult, and these are the things that we need to challenge ourselves to fix. And one of the things I know that Mayor and I worked on in the past was trying to get an awareness for young people to get involved in the trades. Because the one thing we noticed was that when we talked to companies like Wolf Steel, or we talked to South Medic, or different companies in Barrie, they're short on skilled trades. They don't have a lot of people coming to them from skilled trades. They're importing them not only from out of town, but in some cases out of the country, because we don't have a lot of trained skilled trades people here in Barrie. So I think we really need to work with universities and colleges and all sorts of different education institutions to make sure that we're providing the right sort of skills for kids when they get out of school.
Well, let me follow up with Mary Lynn on that. The assumption is you're going to go to Georgian College, you'll get upskilled, and you'll be able to go find yourself a job in the marketplace.
Right.
That's apparently not happening as often as people would like it to happen. What do we say about that?
Yeah, I've had the privilege of working in both a college and a university, and actually the job rate for college grads over the last 10 years has been a little bit better. It's about 91, 92% within 6-month period, Steve. The real issue is finding jobs in fields that are for the 21st century. And I think it's post-secondary's responsibility to start creating jobs in areas that are, programs to support jobs that are for the 21st century, not necessarily programs that have served us well for the last number of years, and they've been great, by the way, but it's time to start focusing on where the economy is going. And so can I pull on this Wolf Steel thing for a minute here? Because last week I was at Wolf Steel. They made an announcement of an investment from the federal government to do some research. They've added 250 jobs into the community, great paying jobs. You walk through that plant, there are Georgian grads there. But what I think we're missing in the community is we've missed the STEM post-secondary experience, quite frankly. I see missing science, technology, environment, and math in the business and industries. Wolf Steel, great example. By the way, they have 1,400 employees all over the world, and as Jeff said, they're launching an air conditioning unit, and that's the strategy where if you can be a smart business and get started, you've got to diversify into other areas. So moving from barbecuing, where you get hot, and air conditioning, I guess, so you can cool off to enjoy your dinner. But it makes sense because it uses the same technology.
Debbie, every municipality outside of Toronto worries about youth flight. Is Barrie in the same situation in that regard?
Oh, most definitely. We've got a lot of students that are coming in. We are an entrepreneur city, which is great because we do keep a lot of amazing talent from the university and from the college here, and they're staying and they're being part of things, and it's going. The highway makes it easy. Now the balance to that is, as much as we have the flight down the highway, we also have the flight into Barrie. It's about equal as to who leaves Barrie for work and then who drives into Barrie on a daily basis for work.
Is that right? There's as many people who live in Barrie but work somewhere else as work somewhere else but work in Barrie.
Yes. So
Okay.
it's easy to say, oh, our, kind of the brain drain down the highway, but there's quite a brain drain that comes up the highway and comes into Barrie as well. And, just kind of, on a thought process around that, the big, stores along the 400 that are retail, well, only 15% of our economy in Barrie is retail. It feels more because when you go through, the highway, and that's our core of the city.
You see it.
You see the great big signs, but there is just so much more. So students and people that are looking for those jobs, going to the big boxes or going to those, they get hit with everybody because they're the biggest, most visible. It's that extra step of going across the street, going into the downtown core, going into where these creative spaces are and those hubs of entrepreneurship, who are looking for special skills that are being driven out of places like the college.
Having said all that, Tom, I think it's fair to say Barrie is increasingly developing a reputation as a commuter city. You're as far away from Toronto as, say, Burlington is, or Pickering is, or something like that. As a guy who's lived here a long time, do you like that?
I'm really glad you asked that, because I don't think it's true. It's been about 30% of, in absolute numbers, obviously it's bigger because the community is much larger, but it's remained in that 35%, 30 to 35% of the workforce has been commuting. That's been the number for a long, long time. For example, I can tell you that in my day-to-day travels, I actually, and in my social life, hardly know any commuters. Now, the city is a bit bifurcated in a way because you've got another group of people in this community who probably hardly know anybody that works here. And they tend to live in the South End, and maybe they socialize with fellow commuters more because they're not in the city as much. And there's even stories, in our community of people who live in the South End of town who don't even know we're on a lake. And you think these are apocryphal stories, but I'm told on good authority that he's actually met people who said that to him. So I think it's very important that people understand this is not a commuter city, and it doesn't have a commuter city culture. People here are extremely committed to the quality of life. They have work-life integration in their daily activities because they're working and seeing the same people in their social world. And that gives you tremendous quality. And all the time I've been here, it's one of the things we have not lost is that sense of community.
And Steve, if I could just jump in, we've just partnered with the city to look at conduct a research study to look at the census data of what talent actually is in the cars in the morning going somewhere else to work. And then once we look at that and analyze it, what are the clusters where we could start going to business and industry and lure them into Simcoe County to look at, well, we know this talent exists.
You know this is coming. You all saw the Conference Board of Canada report, and I want to ask you all now to look at the monitor down there. Here's Barrie's report card. On the environment, how about this? Barrie got an A on the environment. On society, a C. On health, a C. On the economy, a C. But look at this: education, innovation, housing, and attractiveness to migrants. The city got a D in all of those categories. Okay, Tom, is that fair?
No.
What's wrong with it?
Well, for one thing, that study is based on 2011, so it's behind the curve. We also have an interesting geographic makeup here in that, for example, Midhurst is actually, it's a part of our community, but is just outside of the political borders. So it creates, in my view, a skewed result because that group is ignored, and there's a lot of professional people there, there's a lot of income there, there's a lot of people that are innovators living there.
That should be included in your
It should be
view.
included in our numbers.
Okay.
Going back to the issue of the healthcare side, this hospital was barely functioning at that point, and that was a sea change in the healthcare side. Then you've got employment itself has improved dramatically. It's very diverse. We're arguably a regional service center, whether it be law or accounting, architecture, engineering. All these things are becoming a central hub to the outcomes that we have. So I think that the city is actually much healthier than that report might indicate. They don't even have us in the right category when you think about it, because they had small, medium, and large, and they've got us in the small group, and our population is now so much larger that we'd be in the middle group.
Well, okay, let me gently raise an issue here. Rod, put this to you. Attractiveness to migrants, they said D. Now, there's no question that Barrie is part of Central Ontario, and Central Ontario just is, it's a matter of fact, overwhelmingly white. I think Barrie and surrounding areas are about 93% white. This isn't Toronto. There's no question about it. Does Barrie want to improve in its attractiveness to people who are not from around here? What's the answer?
I think yes. I think we have to improve our attractiveness to people from abroad to come and live in Barrie. I mean, they bring a ton of skills that we need too. We can't forget that. We do have a bit of a skill gap in Barrie, and a lot of these people are coming here. A lot of them are my neighbors from India, or from Scotland, or one of them is from Korea. This is just my neighborhood. So I also think in the past few years, this has changed immensely too. I think anyone who walks down the streets of Barrie and went through time warp, from 5 years ago to today wouldn't guessed that we would have diversified with new Canadians the way we have. We have a huge, thriving Filipino population in Barrie, a thriving Pakistani population in Barrie.
And when you say huge, and I mean thriving, yes,
Yeah.
but when you say huge,
Yeah.
I mean it's not huge. Let's be frank.
Well, by Barrie standards, it's pretty
By Barrie
big.
standards,
yeah,
okay.
it's pretty big. When I was a young guy going to school in Barrie Elementary School here, there was nary an ethnic face that you see walking down the street. And now, my son and daughter get to go have dinner at my Indian neighbors and learn about their food and their culture and their religion and ask all those questions to them directly. And it's an opportunity I never had as a kid. So Barrie has changed immensely, and I think it's within our interest to provide as many services for new Canadians coming who are looking to offer us their skills.
Let me ask Debbie the follow-up on that. Barrie, this is not a criticism, it's just an observation. Barrie is overwhelmingly white. If you don't have a white face, is this a welcoming enough community?
I believe today now. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it would be a little bit more challenging, but certainly today, the diversity now. People's traveled to Toronto. It's not brand new. Yes, is it a matter of some time before some different cultures decide to make Barrie more home? But you come up on a weekend and be down on our waterfront, you see a very diverse group of people enjoying our waterfront. We have amazing events that happen all year long. You walk about, people are coming and they're starting to see and they're starting to realize that this is a really great place to be. Now, just a step to that as well, and I'll jump on this. There is a newer group that's getting together. We're both part of it. The RVHs, the Barrie Police, and a number of others that are getting together to say, okay, how can we better reach out and help diversity in our community? So that's been a step that's being triggered and geared by leaders in many different aspects of Barrie.
I have somebody here who may know something about that.
Yes.
Shall we introduce him since
Most
he's 2 meters
definitely.
away from you?
Great.
Rudy Kwame Williams is here. He is the Director of Culture for the City of Barrie. Rudy, it's good of you to join us on the broadcast today. How are you?
Thank you. How you doing, Steve?
Just great, thanks.
Good.
Okay, tell us, how did you get to this community originally?
I got to this community because Barrie was in search for a director of culture, someone who would implement the plan for culture that the city had, illustriously spent some time working together and consulting the community and so on. And being someone who is very interested and passionate and skilled in that area, I applied for that job.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living in Toronto at the time.
Where are you from originally?
I was born in England, and my parents are from Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, so when the notion of coming up to Barrie to be the culture czar here, if I can put it that way, what appealed to you about that idea?
I was drawn to coming to Barrie because when I came to meet, for that first interview and so on, what I met was a group of people who I was convinced were very serious about the importance that culture will play in their economic development, in their ability to create an enhanced quality of life for the residents that live here and so on. And to be quite honest with you, even though I perceived Barrie as you put it, a white city, or in terms of its population and so on, I can't say that I have experienced anything but welcome. So it was really interesting listening to your conversation with the panel because I'll tell you a little thing. I have several children, a 14-year-old in particular so he's been in this area now since he was about 8 or 9 years old. And, one day, several months ago, he said to me, he says, when I grow up, will we still be living around here? And I said, well, adult children don't depend on their parents to tell them where to live. They live wherever they want. And he said, okay. He says, in that case, I'm never moving. And and I'll tell you, that was really instructive for me.
Why did he say it?
He said it because as a young African-Canadian person, he felt absolutely welcomed. He felt comfortable in the environment that he was in, despite the fact that, the school that my son went to previous to going to school in Barrie was the Afrocentric Alternative School in Toronto, right? So in
So
other
he
words,
went from seeing a lot of black faces to
Right.
maybe only his?
well, or very few.
Very few.
But what I'm saying is that when we talk about the welcoming factor isn't only associated with whether or not there are other people of similar ethnic or racial backgrounds in the environment. It's also the way in which the community as a whole behaves. So I think that, and also, you know, when I first came to take the job, I also did my research in terms of having an understanding of where Barrie is actually going, because in order to serve, we must understand that. And one of the things that I found interesting was that in every increase in the Barrie population, a much higher percentage of the people who are coming into the community are of diverse backgrounds.
So for all the
So
snobby
what-
people in Toronto who think there's no culture outside that city, what do you want to tell them?
I want to tell them, think again and come visit. Yeah.
What are they going to find if they come here?
Yeah. Well, speaking in terms of the kind of cultural assets and interests that you would have, having been from Toronto myself, I want to say that this community has a tremendous amount of talent. And that, for me, I'm just talking about the things that perhaps to me was a surprise, even coming to the job that I came to.
Talent at what?
Talent, visual arts, musicians, actors, performing artists of all kinds. The community has a tremendous amount of talent. You know, I was telling someone the other day that I went to a high school play. Actually, me and my wife, we went together. One of the local high schools invited me to come and, you know, see the play. They were putting on Miss Saigon. And, you know, both my wife and I, and I'm talking as someone whose eldest daughter went to the Etobicoke School of the Arts. So I'm not unfamiliar with the capability of an arts program, even within a school such as the Etobicoke, which is specialized in that.
And this production that you're talking about, Miss Saigon, was being done where?
Was at St. Joan of Arc, which is a local high school.
Okay.
And I have to tell you that my wife and I, we sat there literally for the entire production with our mouths open, because not too many times have we ever seen high schoolers delivering this quality of art. In fact, I came back to my desk, and for the counselors who might be here today, they may remember, I sent them an email, all of them, and I said, listen, if you want to see the future of the arts in Barrie, please go see these kids.
I'm just curious, how did they do the helicopter scene?
In fact, they built their own helicopter.
No
Right?
kidding.
And so the helicopter scene was actually done with a helicopter that they had manufactured within the school. I thought that was really impressive too. And the only thing that, you know, looking at the production as somebody from a theater background, looking at the production, the only thing I regretted is that they were doing this amazing work, but it was within the school cafeteria and not perhaps in a theatrical facility.
Well, that raises a couple of more questions. Number one, do you have enough theatrical facilities in this city to do what you want to do?
Not ultimately, but you know, we started off implementing the plan for culture, and in so doing, it called for there to be facilities at 3 different levels. Facilities that would suit the community agenda in terms of an effort to create and nurture talent from within, a mid-sized theater, so to speak, and then a larger facility that may in fact be able to bring in larger productions and so on. So I would say at this time, we have a community theater that we've created, which is doing well, serving in the way that it should. We also have a partnership with the college, and so we utilize the theater that's on the campus as our mid-sized theater. And to come, I believe in Barrie's future, will be the larger theater facility. But because we chose an option to really create from within, especially, I was really supportive of that once I got a wind of the kind of talent that the community already has. So in time, as we build the capacity, as we look at really creating an environment that we can use to attract talent, to attract people who might be interested in entrepreneurial activity, and you know, as this community becomes even more vibrant, we will see the building of a larger theater.
We talked on last night's program about the fact that the school board's going to close Barrie Central.
Correct.
They got a good stage there, right?
That's right.
What are you going to do about that?
So what I am hoping, anyway, and this might be a ship that already sailed, but from my perspective, I am hoping that we are able to engage in some discussions, at least about the auditorium itself and the role that it plays right now as perhaps one of the largest stages in the community. So, and if that's not going to pan out, then what else would we do? So I think that there's a lot of discussions to have, and I think this will move well. The community has always, I think, been creative, innovative, try to be forward-looking. You know, one of the most instructive things that I read as I was doing my research on Barrie when I came to take my job was, I started reading about the community's history. And I read an article that said that, at one time when there was Barrie and Allendale and Tollendale, and, these were all relatively small towns in close proximity, that Barrie became really the place to go because it built a jail. And I thought, okay.
Did you want to open a theater company in the jail? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well,
Okay.
I thought, okay, this is good. So in Barrie's future, in a strange way, in my mind, I'm always thinking, okay, so what is going to be Barrie's next jail, right? What's going to be that thing that the community creates, some innovation around that will take it one step further. So I think that we see that. Even the creation of the department and the way that Barrie chose to do a Department of Culture is a lot different from other communities. Culture at the City of Barrie has an opportunity to be at the table with all of the other departments, as opposed to being buried perhaps somewhere else.
Understood. Rudy, it's good of you to spend some time with us tonight here on
You're
TVO.
welcome.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Let's now, did you want to applaud Rudy? That's okay. Applause, applause. We are going to play a clip now. This is Grace United Church Minister Dr. Susan Eagle on what she would like to see develop in terms of the kinds of jobs that will sustain Barrie for the future. Roll tape, please.
So even while the city might say that they only have a 3% unemployment rate right now, we know that some of the job creation has been in what we call precarious employment. That has spin-off effects for people in the community who are sometimes hanging on by their fingernails, trying to survive in housing that they've got or trying to keep a family together. I would hope that the city can attract businesses that will provide better paying and more permanent kinds of jobs.
Okay, and let's return to our discussion with Mary Lynn Westmoynes, Debbie DeCare, Tom McBride, and Rod Jackson. Everybody is chasing those high-skill, high-paying, great jobs that are such important anchors for every city across North America, around the world. And you've got to make your pitch. Why should those jobs come here as opposed to anywhere else? What's the pitch?
I think the pitch is around, again, going back to Richard, Florida. I think that it's about creating a city that people with great skills want to live in, want to raise their families in, want to work in. That is the best strategy that we can go forward with in terms of attracting more employers to our community.
Rodney, can the arts, as Rudy described it, can the arts be a draw to Barrie? Is there enough going on here to make it work?
Well, absolutely. At the very least, there's a good start. So a few years ago, I know the city, right when I was on council, determined that one of the priorities was develop culture as an economic driver. There's a recognition that culture is an economic driver, and I'm not sure the number is, I'm sure Kwame does. It's a massive piece of our economy. So when people in the city have asked me when I knocked on their doors, and every election I've worked on, they've told me that, why are we investing in a museum? Why are we investing in an art gallery? Why are we investing in a theater? We're investing so that we can build that creative class that Tom's talking about, so that we can attract those entrepreneurs and those business executives to want to be in Barrie. So, yeah, Barrie's well on its way. It's not by accident. It's by design. It's they've made a commitment to hire someone like Kwame to come in and be a cultural director to make sure that Barrie's a culture thrives and that it actually stays to be what it was intended to be, which is an economic driver. And by the way, it just makes it a much better place to live when you have all these diverse things and interests that are being provided for everybody. And in Barrie, the nice thing about it, most of it's very inexpensive too. I mean, it's made it a much better place to live in the past 10 years.
Mary Lynn, I'm going to get you to make the post-secondary argument, but before we do, we've got to do this full disclosure business here. As you know, I'm chancellor at Laurentian University. Laurentian is it has a plan for a standalone university in this city. You have a plan at Georgian for a standalone post-secondary institution in the city as well. Michael Johns from Laurentian was on the program last night making his pitch. Now it's your turn to make your pitch.
Well, it's a great opportunity. The province of Ontario has offered to post-secondary institutions to add degree capacity. And what we did was we reached out to our Simcoe County partners, because one of the things the province asked for was a proposal that would encourage colleges and universities to collaborate. And this is my 30th year in post-secondary education, Steve, and I got to tell you, this is the most exciting project I've worked on. Because what we're doing with Lakehead is we're making what I think is the best of a college and a best of a university to add 3,000 degree spaces, 25 new degree programs that in over 60% of them you will graduate with a diploma and a degree in 4 years, which is in response to what our economy is asking for. Take some of the applied thinking that college graduates have taken into the workforce and ensure we've got that theoretical background. And we've focused the energy around science, math, technology, engineering. My predecessor, Brian Tamblin, in the audience tonight, built the Sadlin Health and Wellness Center and put 7 science labs in there. We built it knowing that that was the next evolution for us.
And let me ask you the same follow-up I asked Michael Johns last night, which is enrollment is declining everywhere across Ontario. The expectation is it will continue to decline everywhere except Toronto. So why would we need to build a new university or new post-secondary capabilities outside Toronto?
2 reasons, I think. We actually bench press almost the same as the rest of the communities outside of the GTA, by the way. We haven't seen the dramatic decline other communities have had, and we have an access issue, quite frankly. If we want to drive our economy, we want to grow our economy, we've got to be creating the kind of talent that will be growing those jobs. And I don't think we can afford in Ontario, quite frankly, where everybody lives in the bubble called the GTA. We have to leverage the resources that exist. So access being one, and also I like the notion of creating diplomas and degrees together. A factoid for folks that I think is fascinating. York's applications went down 9% last year. Guelph Humber's applications went up 19% last year because Guelph Humber on the Humber campus are creating a new kind of degree diploma, and I think that's the thing that our students are looking for.
Okay. Debbie, what industries do you think are going to drive the job creation that this community is hoping for going forward?
I go back to entrepreneurship, and where that's going to go is, again, the sciences, the technologies, the engineering.
That's all small. I mean, we're not talking 1,000 people plants anymore, though, right?
We're not talking that at kind of the roots of Barrie, to take that, because there is so much support within the city of Barrie, from mentorship through the college, the city having the facility and the means to be able to help people start a business, places like the chamber that can advocate and help them shape the business. So from the roots, definitely entrepreneurship is a key focus. The other part will be, the success of the Barrie Ambassadors and them going out and driving some of the bigger businesses to come to Barrie and put their plants and put their, larger facilities and come in Barrie, because we do have the highway that goes right through, easy access, water access. We're 45 minutes to the airport. We've got an airport on the north side of us, and there's just so much to offer many, many different levels of business, and manufacturing is definitely one of them.
How are the Colts doing this year? I want to thank all 4 of you for joining us on TVO tonight. It's been a pleasure to be here in the Regional Health Center, to do our 2 programs over the last couple of days.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.